Hi everyone, my name is Ryan. Today we are going to be looking at how you can hire an employee using the hire an employee transaction. If you aren't using Oracle Recruiting Cloud or if you need to create test users, this is a great way to do so. If you are temporarily working on getting ORC set up and you're in the kind of intermediary stages at this time, hire an employee is a great transaction. You'll probably use it a lot during your implementations. We're going to see how it works. So with that, we're going to jump into the system. I am logged in as Curtis Fetty. Curtis, as usual, is our HR administrator. He has a lot of power. He is going to navigate to my client groups, and then we'll see hire an employee is this transaction right at the top here, and we'll go ahead and click on that. When this loads, this is going to look a lot like our typical Redwood transactions, where we have the option to toggle the information that we need. We can see the steps over on the right side here. If we want to expand this main area, we can click the numbers, or if we want to shrink it again to look at our steps, you'll notice that as I toggle one of these on, it gets added as a step in our process. I'll go ahead and add a few things here. Let's see, we'll add a manager, we'll add a salary, and we'll add some comments and attachments if necessary. Awesome. If you needed to, you could toggle all of these on and manage all this information. We're just going to look at a few things today. Actually, we're going to add work relationship info too, so we can talk a little bit about that. But as you can see, since I've toggled these items, I can now see that my steps are a lot more than when I first started. We'll go ahead and click continue. And this is going to take us to the when and why screen. As its name implies, it's going to ask us when we are hiring an employee and why we are doing so. We can make our effective date today. Now you can future date this transaction. You're entering hires right now, but they aren't necessarily going to start until a week from now, a month from now, whatever that might be. You can retroactively do this. Someone joined the organization, now we're catching up. We need to have them enter in our hire. They've been working for a while. This is a problem we need to catch up on. Both are things that you can do. I'm just going to choose today just for simplicity's sake. We can choose our legal employer. We can see that there's several here in our environment. Depending on the size of your organization, you probably would only have one, maybe a couple of these. Let's see if we can find our US one legal entity. And we can see some of our fields are now defaulting based off of what I chose. We can also choose our business unit. Our legal employer is going to be our highest level of the core HR structure, right? This is going to be the top of our funnel, and then as we go down, these things are going to get smaller, such as our business unit. There might be multiple business units that pertain to one legal employer, and that's totally fine. It all depends on the structure of your organization. I'm going to choose a position as well. This just helps, in my experience, ensure that some of our assignment data a little bit later on is accurate and correct for the position. Not necessary to do so, I would highly recommend it. We'll click continue. And this is going to take us to the personal details screen. Here we can enter in our information about our employee. I'll just go ahead and enter me in for my first and last name. Little tricky. You have to put in the last name first and the first name second. It's a little counterintuitive sometimes. I know I mix it up sometimes, but just the way it is. If you want to add any more names, you can, like preferred pronouns. If there's a title that needs to be added, if there's maybe a prefix or a suffix, maybe I'm a junior, I could add that in, or maybe I'm the third. Maybe I get really fancy, I'm the fourth, who knows? You can add any honors. If there's a preferred name, maybe my first name is Ryan. Oh, it looks like we have preferred name is using the drop down for preferred pronouns. Maybe they have a maiden name that they want to enter in. You could put that in here, or just a previous last name that we want to keep on our records. That can be done. We can enter a local name if that's necessary. We can choose our gender. Female, male, and non-binary are our seeded options, and then we can choose our date of birth as well. I'll say I was born I was born in 99. We'll just say whatever, March 17th. And then you can also add a national identifier. When you're doing this for real employees, I would recommend adding as much information as possible. If you're trying to get some end-to-end testing done, I would also recommend adding as much information as possible, such as a national identifier. Um, there are some built-in sort of rules that prevent you from entering in fake social security numbers or invalid social security numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's going to give you an error. That's not a real social security number. I found that using all fours and then one number at the end, that's a fake one that turns out just fine. There's a few other tricks. If you Google them, there's some fake socials that work with the rules for social security numbers, but we can click save, and that will save our national identifier. Let's see, I think it's running a check right now to see if there's anyone else who has this social. Perfect. And as you can see, I've only added one, so that's my primary. If I added another and I wanted to make that my primary, I'd have the option to toggle on the primary there. I'll go ahead and continue. I also checked my communication info. So if we wanted to add a phone number, maybe a work phone or a mobile phone, we could certainly do so. We can choose the type. So we have work, maybe a second work. Big shot over here, got 2 work phones and then a work mobile phone. Any home phones, a pager, anything like that. And then these are also customizable, these lists here. It breaks up the area code and the actual phone number, as well as any extensions. The from date, the earliest date that can be is the hire date of the employee because they effectively did not start before that. Those effective start dates are really important. They can be kind of counterintuitive sometimes, like my cell phone number. I have had my cell phone longer than I've worked at my current organization. However, in Oracle, I have only existed as long as I have been employed. Therefore, that's why that from date is defaulting to today, the effective start date of when I created this employee. I'm going to cancel out of here. We can also add an email address, very similar, a lot simpler. We just have our type. I think we have work and home are the options. You can add another if necessary, and then you could add the email address in here. I'll cancel out of there, and we can click continue. Our address. This is kind of exciting. You have the option to choose the type, so it can be a home address, a tax address, or whatever that might be. And then we have our option to search, an address search. I will look up, let's see, we will look up my college apartment, 130 Sunset Drive. And there's a lot of 130 Sunset Drives. What do you know? Here we go, in Boone, North Carolina. Great place, Boone. This information comes from the vertex and the geography data that you have loaded previously as part of your core HCM configuration. Really cool. Allows you to just search for an address and it's automatically going to put it into a format that Oracle can comprehend and chew and digest easily. This can apply to our taxes, our payroll information. It's going to convert it into the proper format that we need, but we only need to, like you just saw, I just had to search for the street address and I could search and pick from the options in the drop down there. Very cool stuff. I'll go ahead and save that. And then we'll let that save. Again, it's marked as the primary because that's my only one. If I add another, I wanted to make that my primary perhaps, I could do so. We'll click continue. And this is taking us to the position override screen. Really cool feature here. This is why we chose a position back at the beginning, because all this information is going to default based on the information we chose for the position. Saves us a lot of time. I don't have to enter any of this data now because it's been configured at the position level. I just pick that position and bam, it's going to fit in exactly what I need. I like all this, but let's say I wanted to override something. I could uncheck this and decide, you know what, HR department isn't correct. I need to change that. We can remove that toggle, and now we'd be able to edit that. I'm going to leave this checked on though. We want to ensure that we're getting all of our information from our positions. Next is going to take us to the assignment screen. And here's where we're going to see a lot of that information has been defaulted. Let's give it a second to load here. And there we go. So our job, our business title, our department, our location, regular and temporary, full-time, part-time, all of these have been loaded in from the position. Really cool feature. We can choose if this is hourly or salaried. We could say salaried. We get to enter in any of this information, whatever is necessary for our reporting purposes. I'll just leave it blank for now. We can see it's not required. I will choose a grade. We can see there's only a few options here. That's because at the position or job level, these were configured as valid grades. I can't pick anything outside of this because it's considered invalid for the job or the position. A lot of really cool stuff that you can do setting up guardrails with your core HR configuration. That way, when users like me in this scenario have these sort of like bumpers when you're bowling to keep the ball from going into the gutter, making sure that you're entering in your data correctly. I'll give myself the highest grade because why not, right? We'll go ahead and continue here. And this takes us to the manager screen. Because I am Curtis right now and I'm filling out this hire an employee, it's going to default to me being the line manager. But as we can see, Curtis is an HR specialist. He might be filling this out for a manager that isn't him. If he wants to change that, he can just click this pencil icon. He can go to this managers here and he can look for a different individual. Maybe we want, let's see, where's Robert? Robert VPHR to be the line manager instead. And we can save. And that's updated. If we need to add another manager, maybe we have another manager type, like a project manager, a regional manager, or maybe we want to have a mentor recorded in the system, we can do so by adding more managers here on this manager screen. I'm going to cancel out of there, and then we can continue to the work relationship info. Now, work relationships are really important. It's going to refer to kind of all this I-9 and E-Verify information. It's defaulting to me being an employee because we use the hire an employee transaction. Now, there are a few other types of people that we could have created. We have employees, we have contingent workers, we have pending workers, and we have non-workers. Now, all four of those are distinct. Your employee is going to be your run-of-the-mill typical worker, right? Most people you interact with in your organization are probably going to be considered employees. Contingent workers refer to people that are workers in the system, however, they are not paid by payroll. This might be a contractor. This might be a consultant that you're bringing in temporarily in your organization. You want to keep track of them in Oracle for whatever reason, but they won't be there the entire time. Maybe a temp worker that's paid by a temp agency. All of these would be good use cases for a contingent worker. However, that depends on how your organization is going to work with categorizing these individuals. Our pending workers refer to people who have a relationship with the organization, but they aren't quite a contingent worker or an employee yet. A pending worker could be someone who has been hired or they have been considered hired. They have an offer and they've accepted an offer. You want them to work on pre-boarding. We want to ensure that they're ready to go on their first day, but their first day is until the beginning of the next month. For that case, we might want to create a pending worker for this individual. That way they can start getting into the system to complete their pre-boarding tasks, but they aren't an employee yet. We would want to convert them from a pending worker into an employee by their hire date. That's a transaction that we can look at on another date. And then finally, our non-workers are, as it describes, someone who is not a worker. They could be a retiree, for example. They could be a contact for someone, an emergency contact, or someone who is a beneficiary in a benefits relationship, some kind of dependent, something like that. Those would be our non-workers that can be added into the system as well, just to track the people that are interacting in any way with HR, with the organization at all. We'll go ahead and continue to get to our salary. Here we have a few options. So we'll want to choose our salary basis. I am going to choose the US 1 annual salary basis. These salary bases are going to be what determines the calculation for converting someone's salary from an hourly to an annualized salary, how often someone's paid out, how frequently someone is paid out. things like that. You'll notice that after I selected that salary basis, it had the missing piece it needed to start calculating the salary range, right? I'm Curtis hiring myself for me, for me. So if we scroll down, we can see the salary range, 200,000 to 350,000, and it's warning me, hey, just letting you know, this is outside of the range. The range is down here, and we are really on the low side. So I could update this to 250,000, director of compensation, right? This is big time. And now we can see that warning is going to go away, and we can see our little graphic down here showing where I am in that salary range. It's also giving me the compa ratio, and it's giving me the quartile. If I update this to, let's say, 375,000, we can see that we are above range. Our compa ratio is 136.36. That's pretty high. And it's warning us again, you're outside of the range, buddy. You got to tone it down. Totally fine. We're going to change it back to 300,000, and we can see everything is updated accordingly. We can also enter in a next salary review date for any triggers that might relate to something else in the system if necessary. I'll go ahead and hit continue, and that takes us to our final screen that we've selected where we can add any comments or attachments. So Curtis is hiring me, right? He's going to say, what a handsome devil he is. Curtis is such a nice guy. He can save that comment, and then that saves the comment in there for when this transaction is submitted. As we go through the approvals, anyone who needs to approve or sign off on this will be able to see those comments. Obviously, you probably wouldn't want to add that in a real life scenario in your organization, but you probably could have a situation where you need to add any comments. Signing off on this, you could say, this is this individual who interviewed on this date. This is why this is getting in early or late or whatever. Whatever you need to do, if you need to add a file to justify it, you can drag and drop that or enter like a SharePoint URL, something like that. Once you're done, you can click submit, and then that transaction is submitted, the employee is hired. That was just a quick guide on how to hire an employee. You can get a lot more intense with it. You can be a lot more simple with it. It all depends on your organization's need. But as you can see, that was what, about 15 minutes, a lot of us chatting here. Really simple, really straightforward, and really, really easy. I hope you enjoyed seeing the nice guardrails and safeguards that exist within Oracle HCM. If there's something that you have added in your organization, maybe an extension using Visual Builder Studio, or maybe an unconventional way to use some seeded functionality in Oracle HCM, I would love to hear about it. Please put something in the comments below. Thanks so much.